The council chamber was quiet. Too quiet. Captain stood before the largest gathering of alien species he had ever seen. His 4 eyes scanned the room, watching as beings from 100 different worlds waited for someone to speak. His crystalline skin reflected the dim lights, creating small rainbows across the floor. Elder finally broke the silence. The ancient being moved slowly to the center platform, his body casting strange shadows. "We have received a signal," he said. His voice was old and tired. "From human space." The room erupted. Voices shouted in dozens of languages. Some aliens stood up, their bodies shaking with fear. Others simply stared, unable to believe what they had heard. "Impossible," someone yelled. "Nothing comes from human space." "Nothing comes back," another voice corrected. Felt his heart's beat faster. Human space. The forbidden zone. The place where ships went to disappear forever. For 300 years, no one had crossed that border and returned. The Galactic Council had marked it as a Level 9 quarantine zone, the highest threat level that existed. Raised one of his many arms. "I know what you are thinking, I know what you fear, but we cannot ignore this signal. It is a distress call." "Let them die," someone shouted from the back. "Humans are dangerous, we all know the stories." Had heard the stories too. Everyone had. 3 centuries ago, the Council sent a fleet to Earth. 1,000 ships, the largest armada ever assembled. They went to bring humans into the galactic community. The Council always said it was for integration, for peace. The fleet never returned. Not one ship, not one survivor, not even a message. After that day, the Council voted to seal off human space forever. Better to have one dangerous species contained than to risk the safety of the entire galaxy. That was the official decision. That was the law. But had always wondered, what really happened to that fleet? Why did the Council refuse to send scouts or probes? Why did they forbid even talking about humans? "I will go," heard himself say. The words came out before he could stop them. The room went silent again. Every alien turned to look at him. "Captain," said slowly, "do you understand what you are volunteering for?" "I do, Elder. Someone must investigate. If there is a distress call, someone might be in danger. It is our duty." "Your duty," repeated, "or your curiosity?" Did not answer. Maybe it was both. The council meeting continued for hours. They argued about risks and protocols. They discussed what would happen if never returned. Finally, they agreed. 1 ship, 1 captain, 1 mission. As left the chamber, a voice called out to him, "Captain, wait." He turned to see a female approaching. She looked almost like his species, but not quite. Her skin was smooth, not crystalline. She had only 2 eyes. She walked on 2 legs instead of 4. A human. "Ambassador," said, surprised, "I did not know you were here." "I live in neutral space," she explained, "between your worlds and mine. When I heard about the signal, I came as fast as I could." She paused, studying him carefully. "You are really going into human space?" "Yes." "Then I am coming with you." Started to protest but raised her hand. "You need me. You do not speak our languages. You do not understand our culture. Without me, you will die within hours of crossing the border." "Is it really that dangerous?" Smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Dangerous? No. Confusing? Absolutely. Human space does not work the way you think it does. The physics are different. Time flows differently. Your instruments will not work. You will be lost." She stepped closer. "But more than that, you need to understand why we left, why we chose isolation." "I thought the council chose isolation for you." "That is what they tell themselves," said softly. "The truth is more complicated." 3 days later they departed. The ship was called Harmony's Edge, a scout vessel designed for long-range exploration. Its crew consisted of 12 aliens, all experienced explorers. And now they had 2 humans, and her security officer, a quiet man named. Did not speak much. He watched everything with dark, careful eyes. noticed how the human never seemed to relax, always ready for danger. When tried to make conversation, only nodded and walked away. He does not trust aliens, explained later. His family was killed by raiders from the sector. He blames the council for not protecting neutral space colonies. But we are trying to make peace, protested. Are you, asked, or are you just afraid of what you do not understand? The journey to the border took 2 weeks. During that time, held briefings for the crew. She showed them videos of Earth, of human cities, of the vast fleets that orbited their worlds. Was amazed by what he saw. The technology was unlike anything in Council space. The ships moved in ways that should be impossible. The structure's basic physics. How, he asked, how do you do this? We adapt, said simply. It is what humans do best. When something is impossible, we find a way to make it possible. On the final day before crossing the border, sent a message. Captain, I must tell you something. Something the Council does not want you to know. The hologram of the Elder appeared on the bridge. He looked even older than before, his body trembling slightly. 300 years ago, began, we did not go to Earth for peace. We went for control. We saw humans as primitive, dangerous, and unpredictable. We decided to force them into compliance. He paused. But humans do not comply, they resist, they fight, and they won. One repeated, you said the fleet was destroyed. That is what we told everyone, admitted. The truth is worse. The humans did not destroy our fleet. They disabled every single ship without killing anyone. Then they gave us a choice. Leave and never return, or face war with a species that refuses to kill even its enemies. The Elder's image flickered. We chose to leave. We chose to lie. And we chose to be afraid. The message ended. Sat in his command chair, processing everything he had just learned. Around him, his crew was silent. They had all heard his confession. Captain, the navigator called out, we are approaching the border. Full stop, ordered. He looked at, are you ready? The question is, replied, are you? Took a deep breath. All 4 of his eyes focused on the ahead. Beyond that invisible line lay human space. 300 years of mystery, 300 years of fear. Take us across, he commanded. The ship moved forward. The moment they crossed the border, every alarm on the bridge began screaming. Lights flashed. Instruments spun wildly. The stars on the twisted into impossible shapes. Then, just as suddenly, everything went still. They were inside human space. And nothing would ever be the same. Stared at the navigation console in disbelief. The star charts made no sense. According to their instruments, they had been drifting for 3 days, but the ship's chronometer said only 6 hours had passed. Which one was correct? This is impossible, his navigator whispered. The alien's tentacles were shaking. The stars do not match any known configuration. It is as if we are in a completely different universe. Stood calmly near the arms crossed. I warned you, human space does not follow your rules. What does that mean? Demanded. His frustration was growing. Nothing worked properly. Their communications were useless. Their scanners showed readings that contradicted each other. Even basic navigation had become a guessing game. It means, said patiently, that humans evolved in a region of space with unusual properties. We adapted to conditions that would kill or drive insane most other species. Time does not flow the same way here. Physics bend in unexpected directions. And your technology, which was designed for normal space, cannot cope. Spoke for the first time in days. We should turn back. We cannot, the navigator reported. I do not know which direction is back. Fear rippled through the bridge. Could see his crew beginning to panic. They were lost in the most dangerous region of known space, with no way home. Captain, the sensor officer called out, I am detecting something, a ship. Everyone rushed to the... Sure enough, a vessel was approaching. It was small, much smaller than Harmony's Edge. The design was strange, all smooth curves and odd angles. It should not be able to move through space, yet it glided toward them with impossible grace. "Battle stations, ordered." "Belay that," said firmly. "They are here to help, not fight." "How do you know?" "Because if they wanted to fight, we would already be dead." A communication request came through. Accepted it, and two humans appeared on the screen. One was an older man with a weathered face and kind eyes. The other was a young woman with parts of her body replaced by technology that glowed with soft blue light. "Greetings," the man said in perfect galactic standard. "My name is, this is my navigator. We received word that an alien ship crossed the border. Are you lost?" Felt a wave of relief. "Yes, our instruments do not work here. We are searching for the source of a distress signal." And exchanged a glance. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication, then smiled. "There is no distress signal. That was a test. We wanted to see if the council would respond." "A test?" Felt anger rising in him. "You made us risk our lives for a test." "You risked your lives by entering space you were told to avoid," pointed out. Her voice was calm, matter-of-fact. "We needed to know if the council was still afraid of us, or if you were ready to talk." "We will escort you to Solace Station," said. "It is the nearest human facility. Follow us closely and do not deviate from our course. Human space can be dangerous if you do not know the routes." For the next several hours, they followed the small cargo ship deeper into human territory. Watched carefully, trying to understand how navigated. The human ship moved with confidence, taking paths that seemed random but always worked perfectly. During the journey, contacted them again. "Captain, may I come aboard your ship? There are some repairs I can make to help your instruments function in our space." Agreed, and 20 minutes later materialized in their transporter room. The crew stared at her in shock. She was young, perhaps 20 human years old, but nearly half her body was mechanical. One arm was completely artificial, covered in intricate machinery. Her right eye glowed with the same blue light. Parts of her torso were visible through transparent panels, showing artificial organs working in perfect harmony with natural ones. "You are a cyborg," said, fascinated. "We prefer the term enhanced," replied with a smile. "Most humans who work in deep space have modifications like this. It helps us survive the conditions." She went to work on their navigation console, her artificial fingers moving with incredible speed. As she worked, she explained things that made head spin. "Human space exists in a region where quantum effects are more pronounced," she said. "Time does not flow linearly here. Instead, it fluctuates based on gravitational fields and velocity. Your instruments measure time as a constant, so they give you false readings." "How do humans measure time then?" the navigator asked. "We do not," said simply. "We feel it. All humans develop an instinct for temporal navigation. We sense when time is moving faster or slower. It is hard to explain." She finished her work and stood up. "That should help. Your instruments will still not be perfect, but they will be functional." As she turned to leave, one of crew members, a young engineer, asked, "Is it true that humans can survive in hard vacuum?" Paused. "For a short time, yes. Would you like me to demonstrate?" Before anyone could answer, she walked to the airlock. "Wait!" shouted, but she had already opened the outer door. The crew rushed to the viewing port and watched in horror as floated into space. She wore no suit, only a small breathing device over her mouth. She should have died instantly. The cold of space should have frozen her blood. The pressure difference should have made her explode. Instead, she calmly floated over to a damaged sensor array on the hull and began repairs. Her exposed skin turned slightly blue from the cold, but she showed no signs of distress. She worked for 10 minutes, fixing damage that would have taken crew days to repair with proper equipment. When she returned inside, she was smiling. "Sorry if I scared you. Humans are adapted for extreme conditions. Our blood has special proteins that prevent freezing. Our skin can seal itself against vacuum, and our lungs can extract oxygen from almost anything." She shrugged. "We evolved on a harsh world. We learned to be tough." They arrived at Solace Station an hour later, had seen many impressive structures in his life, but nothing compared to this. The station orbited a neutron star, one of the deadliest objects in the universe. The radiation alone should have sterilized everything within a light year. Yet here was a massive habitat, gleaming in the deadly light, home to millions of humans. Hal whispered. "You keep asking that," said from beside him. "The answer is always the same. We adapt." They docked with the station, and a delegation met them. The leader was a tall man named, an administrator with sharp eyes and a diplomatic smile. "Welcome to Solace Station," Captain said. "We have been waiting for you." "You knew we were coming." "We have been monitoring the council for centuries," admitted. "We knew eventually someone would be brave enough to cross the border. We are glad it was you." Led them through the station. Everywhere looked, he saw wonders. Gardens grew in impossible spaces. Water flowed upward. Children played in areas that should have been flooded with lethal radiation but were somehow perfectly safe. "I do not understand," finally said. "Your technology is far beyond ours. Your people have abilities we thought impossible. Why did you accept exile? Why did you not fight back?" Stopped walking and turned to face him. "That is a fair question, Captain. The answer is simple. We did not want war. When the Council came to Earth 300 years ago, we could have destroyed them, easily. But humans do not like killing. We do not like violence. So we showed them we could win without firing a shot, and we gave them a choice." "What choice?" "Leave and tell the truth, or leave and lie," said. They chose to lie. They told everyone we were dangerous monsters who destroyed their fleet. They created the quarantine to hide their shame. He smiled sadly. "We accepted it because we hoped that someday the Council would be ready to learn the truth. Someday they would send someone like you." "Someone like me." "Someone brave, someone curious, someone willing to see past their fear," placed a hand on shoulder. It was a human gesture, one of friendship. "You came here expecting monsters. Instead, you found people. Now the question is, what will you do with that knowledge?" Looked at and then back at his crew. They had all seen the same things he had. They all knew the truth now. The Galactic Council had been wrong. Humans were not monsters. They were something far more dangerous. They were hope. Led and his senior crew to a secure room deep within Solace Station. The walls were covered with display screens, all dark and waiting. In the center stood a simple table with chairs arranged around it. "What you are about to see," said quietly, "is classified information. The Council has tried very hard to bury this history, but if we are to move forward, you must know the truth." Activated the screens. Images began to appear, showing Earth from space. It was a beautiful blue and green world, so different from the harsh environments where most Council species lived. Then the images changed, showing the Council fleet arriving in Earth's orbit. "300 years ago," began, his voice steady but cold, "the Galactic Council discovered humanity. We were not part of your star maps because human space exists in a pocket of unusual physics. When your scouts finally found us, they reported back to the Council." The screens showed meetings, debates, arguments among Council members. Recognized some of the species, though the individuals were long dead. "The Council studied us from a distance," continued. "They sent probes and spy satellites. They analyzed our biology, our culture, our technology, and what they found scared them." Why asked, "What did they see?" Answered, "They saw a species that could adapt to any environment within a single generation. They saw humans forming emotional bonds not just with each other, but with animals, with plants, even with machines. They saw a species that valued freedom above safety, that chose danger over control." He paused. "They saw everything the Council was not." The screens shifted, showing military planning sessions. felt sick as he watched Council admirals designing an invasion strategy. They called it the Integration Fleet, said bitterly. 1,000 ships, the largest military force ever assembled. They said it was for our own good. They said humans were too dangerous to leave alone. They said we needed guidance, structure, rules. They said you needed to be controlled, added softly. The footage showed the fleet approaching Earth, watched as human ships moved to intercept. The human fleet was smaller, only a few hundred vessels. They should have been crushed instantly. Watch carefully, said. What happened next took breath away. The human ships moved in patterns that made no sense. They appeared and disappeared, using jump technology in ways that should have been impossible. They seemed to predict where the Council ships would fire before the weapons were even charged. One by one, every Council ship was disabled. Not destroyed, disabled. Their weapons were neutralized. Their engines were shut down, their shields collapsed, but not a single ship was completely destroyed. Not a single crew member was killed. Hal whispered. Quantum prediction technology. His voice came from behind them. She had entered the room silently. All humans have a natural ability to perceive probability streams. We see possible futures branching out from every decision. Our technology enhances this ability. We knew where your ships would be before you did. The footage continued. After the entire Council fleet was disabled, human ships approached. Boarding teams entered the alien vessels, and instead of killing the crews, they provided medical aid. They repaired life support systems. They offered food and water. Then came the message. A human admiral appeared on screen, broadcasting to every Council ship. We do not want war, the admiral said. His face was calm, almost sad. We could have destroyed you. We chose not to. Now you have a choice. Return to your council and tell them the truth. Humans are not aggressors. Tell them we disabled your entire fleet without a single casualty. Tell them we are willing to talk, to negotiate, to find peace. Or, a council admiral asked on the recording. Or tell them we destroyed you, the human replied. Tell them humans are dangerous monsters. Create a quarantine zone. Never return. The choice is yours. The recording ended. The room was silent. They chose to lie, said slowly. They chose fear, corrected. Fear is easier than understanding. Lies are more comfortable than truth. Activated another screen. But not everyone lied. Some aliens chose to stay. The new footage showed a group of aliens living on Earth, walking among humans. They looked happy, integrated into society. Recognized some of the species, like himself, warriors, even a few intellectuals. There are currently 647 non-humans living in human space, explained. Most are descendants of the integration fleet. Some are refugees who found their way here over the centuries. All of them chose to stay. I would like to meet them, said. I hoped you would say that. They traveled to another section of the station, a residential area that looked different from the rest. The architecture blended styles from dozens of worlds, saw crystal formations next to stone gardens. He heard music that mixed human melodies with alien harmonies. An elderly alien approached them. He was a species known for their warrior culture. His scales were faded with age, but his eyes were bright and alert. Captain, the old said, I am commander. I led the 4th battle group during the integration fleet attack. Stared in shock, you were there. I was, confirmed. I gave the order to fire on human cities. I expected to win a glorious victory. He laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Instead, I learned the greatest lesson of my life. What lesson? That true strength is not about winning. It is about choosing not to fight, gestured around him. The humans defeated us without killing anyone. Then they offered us citizenship. They offered us homes, families, and lives. Most of my crew chose to return to Council space. I chose to stay. Why? Because I was tired of war. I was tired of conquest. and because humans showed me that there is another way. Eyes grew distant. My children were born here, my play with human children in the streets. They do not care about species or differences, they just care about friendship. He looked directly at. That is what the Council fears most. Not human technology or human weapons. They fear human compassion. They spent hours meeting other aliens who had chosen to live among humans. Each had a similar story. Each had found something in human space they could not find anywhere else. Acceptance. A scientist named Doctor took a side. She had been studying human biology for decades, trying to understand what made them unique. It is not just their bodies, she explained. It is their minds. Humans have evolved psychological resilience that we cannot match. When faced with impossible odds, most species give up or panic. Humans do not. They fight harder. They find hope where none exists. They refuse to accept defeat. That sounds exhausting, said. It is, agreed. But it is also beautiful. Humans burn bright, Captain. They live with an intensity that most species cannot understand, and they inspire others to burn brighter too. That evening gathered everyone for a final briefing. He showed them data that made heads spin. Human technology was centuries ahead of the Council. Their ships were faster, their weapons more precise, their defenses nearly impenetrable. By every military measure, humans could conquer the entire galaxy if they wanted to. But we do not want to, said firmly. Humans do not build empires, we build communities. We do not seek to rule others, we seek to understand them. Then why the isolation? Demanded. Why accept the quarantine? Because we hoped you would evolve, answered. We hoped the Council would grow past its fear. We hoped that one day someone would be brave enough to cross that border and see the truth. She smiled at. We hoped for someone like you. Brought up a final image. It showed Earth, surrounded by hundreds of defensive satellites and orbital platforms. Make no mistake, Captain, we chose peace, but we are always ready for war. We have spent 3 centuries preparing for the day when the Council might return with hostile intent. We have weapons that could turn stars into novas. We have ships that can move through dimensions you do not even know exist. His voice hardened. We are the guardians at the galaxy's edge, protecting everyone from threats you have never imagined. What threats? He asked. That, said, is a conversation for another time. Right now you have a choice to make. You can return to the Council and tell them the truth, show them what you have learned, help them understand that humans are not their enemy. He paused. Or you can keep the lie alive, tell them we are monsters, keep the quarantine in place. The choice, like always, is yours. Looked at his crew. He saw fear in some eyes, wonder in others, but mostly he saw understanding. They had all learned the same truth. The Galactic Council had been living a lie for 300 years, and it was time for that lie to end. I will tell them the truth, said firmly, no matter the cost. Smiled. Good. Because the galaxy is going to need humans and aliens working together very soon. There are greater dangers coming, Captain. Dangers that make the old integration fleet look like children playing with toys. What kind of dangers? Smile faded. The kind that end civilizations, but we will discuss that after you have spoken to your Council. First, let us end one war, then we can prepare for the next. As prepared to leave Solace Station, he looked back at the massive structure orbiting its deadly star. Somewhere inside, hundreds of aliens and millions of humans lived together in peace. It was proof that the Council's fears were wrong. Different species could coexist. Different minds could understand each other. Different hearts could beat as one. Now he just had to convince the entire galaxy. The return journey felt different. Crew was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. They had entered human space as explorers and left as witnesses to a truth that would shake the galaxy, and accompanied them back, along with a third human, Commander, a decorated military officer who carried himself with quiet confidence. The Council will not believe words alone, had said when assigned him to the mission. They will need proof. They will need to see what humans can do. Had not understood what he meant, not yet. When they emerged from human space into Council territory, they discovered that only 3 weeks had passed. Inside the border, they had experienced 6 months. Time truly was different in that strange pocket of space. But something was wrong. The moment their communication systems came online, they were flooded with emergency broadcasts. "Captain, you need to see this," the communications officer said urgently. The filled with images of destruction. Planets burned. Space stations were torn apart. Entire fleets were scattered like leaves in a storm. And at the center of it all was something had never seen before. Massive organic ships that moved like living creatures, consuming everything in their path. "What are those?" whispered. "The swarm," answered grimly. "We have been tracking them for years. They come from dark space, from the void between galaxies. They consume all biological matter they encounter." "How many worlds have they taken?" 17, said quietly. 17 worlds in 3 weeks, populations in the billions all gone. The crew was stunned into silence. The Galactic Council military was the most powerful force in known space. How could they fail against any enemy? "They are fighting wrong," explained. "The Council uses traditional warfare, big fleets, direct confrontation, overwhelming force. But the swarm does not work that way. It adapts. It learns. Every tactic you use against it becomes useless after the first attempt." "Then how do you fight it?" asked. "You don't fight it," said. "You outsmart it." They arrived at Council Central Station to find chaos. Military commanders argued with politicians. Scientists presented theories that contradicted each other. And in the center of it all, Elder looked older and more tired than ever. "Captain," said when he saw them, "you have returned, and you bring humans with you." He did not sound surprised. "Elder, I have much to tell you." "It will have to wait," interrupted. "We are losing this war. 4 more worlds have been attacked since this morning. Our fleets cannot stop them. Our weapons are useless. If we do not find a solution soon, the swarm will reach the core worlds within a month." Stepped forward. "Elder, humans can help." The council chamber erupted in shouting. Some demanded the humans leave immediately. Others called for their arrest. A few voices spoke in favor of accepting help, but they were drowned out by fear and anger. Raised his arms for silence. When the chamber finally quieted, he looked at with tired eyes. "What do you want in return?" "The truth," said simply. "Acknowledge what really happened 300 years ago. Lift the quarantine. Let humans and aliens work together as equals." "That is a high price," said slowly. "It is a fair price," replied. "And it is the only price. We do not want territory, we do not want power, we want partnership." The debate lasted for hours. Some council members refused to accept human help under any circumstances. They said humans were using the crisis to manipulate the council. Others argued that survival was more important than pride. Finally called for a vote. It passed by a narrow margin. The truth would be revealed. The quarantine would be lifted, and humans would help fight the swarm. Within days, a human fleet arrived. 30 ships, that was all. Compared to the thousands of council vessels already deployed, it seemed laughable. "This is your great military force?" an admiral demanded. 30 ships against an enemy that destroyed our best fleets." "Quality over quantity," responded calmly. Was assigned as the liaison officer, coordinating between human and council forces. He watched as explained the battle strategy to skeptical military commanders. "The swarm operates as a collective consciousness," said. "Destroy one ship and the others learn, but disrupt their communication and they become confused. We will use biological weapons specifically engineered to target their neural network." "Biological weapons," a council general protested. "That is against every law of warfare." "So is extinction," said coldly. You can debate ethics after we save your species. Right now, we focus on survival. The human fleet moved to intercept the swarm in the system. Council observers, including, watched from command ships positioned at a safe distance. Everyone expected to witness a disaster. What they saw instead changed everything. The human ships jumped directly into the swarm formation, appearing in spaces that should have been impossible to reach. Their movements were precise, calculated, as if they knew exactly where each enemy vessel would be. "They are using quantum prediction," his voice came over the communication channel. She had joined the fleet as a tactical officer. "We can see the probability streams. We know what the swarm will do before it does." The humans deployed their biological weapon, microscopic organisms that targeted the swarm's collective consciousness. Within minutes, the massive organic ships began to move erratically, crashing into each other, firing randomly. But the swarm adapted quickly. New ships arrived, immune to the biological attack. They began targeting the human vessels with focused fire. 3 human ships were hit. Their shields collapsed. Hull breaches appeared across multiple sections. Any other species would have evacuated immediately. The humans did not evacuate. "All damaged ships switch to ramming protocol," ordered. Watched in horror as the 3 damaged vessels, their crews still inside, accelerated toward the largest swarm ships. But instead of abandoning their posts, the human crews stayed, guiding their ships with perfect precision even as fires raged around them. "Why are they not evacuating?" shouted. "Because humans do not abandon their duty," said quietly. He was standing beside, watching his people sacrifice themselves. His face was calm, but tears ran down his cheeks. "They will complete the mission or die trying." The 3 ships struck their targets just as escape pods launched. The crews had stayed until the last possible second, ensuring perfect impact. The explosions tore through the swarm's main vessels, and something strange happened. Music began to play. The human ships were broadcasting music across all frequencies, beautiful, haunting melodies that seemed to reach into the soul. The swarm, which operated on neural patterns and biological signals, reacted to the music. Their coordination collapsed completely. "What is that?" a council admiral demanded. "Psychological warfare," explained. Humans discovered that music affects biological patterns in predictable ways. The swarm's collective consciousness cannot filter it out. They are overwhelmed by sensory input they cannot process. With the swarm in chaos, the human fleet moved in for the final strike. Their weapons, designed to target the specific frequencies of swarm biology, tore through the enemy ships with devastating efficiency. 47 minutes after the battle began, it was over. The swarm was defeated. Not a single council ship had been lost. Only 3 human vessels were destroyed, and most of their crews had survived. The council observers sat in stunned silence. They had just witnessed a level of tactical brilliance and personal sacrifice that they could barely comprehend. His face appeared on the main, addressing the entire council military network. "We did not come here to show off. We came here to help. The swarm is defeated for now, but there will be other threats, greater threats." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You feared us because we are different, but being different is not dangerous. Refusing to accept difference is dangerous." He continued, his voice growing stronger. 300 years ago, you tried to force us to fit into your vision of how the galaxy should work. We refused, not because we wanted to fight you, but because we needed you to understand something important. Strength does not come from making everyone the same. Strength comes from accepting that we are different and working together anyway. "We are not here to conquer," you said. "We are here because when someone needs help, you help them. That is what it means to be human. And if you let us, we will teach you that it can mean the same thing for every species in this galaxy." The transmission ended. Sat back in his chair, his 4 eyes wide with wonder. Around him, his crew was silent. They had just witnessed something impossible. Humans had not just won a battle. They had shown the entire galaxy a new way to fight, a new way to think, a new way to be. And for the first time in 300 years, the Galactic Council began to understand that humans were not their enemy. They were their best hope for survival. 6 months had passed since the Battle of. The galaxy was changing in ways no one had imagined possible. Stood on the observation deck of the new embassy, watching ships of a dozen different species dock at the station. Some were human vessels, sleek and elegant. Others belonged to council species, traditional and familiar. But many were new designs, collaborations between human and alien engineers that combined the best of both technologies. The embassy itself was a marvel, built in neutral space, halfway between human territory and the council core worlds. It represented the first permanent diplomatic structure shared by both civilizations. Ambassador ran the facility and had accepted a position as her senior liaison officer. "It still feels like a dream," a voice said behind him. Turned to see Doctor approaching. The scientist had left human space to work at the embassy, studying the effects of cultural integration between species. "Some days I agree," admitted. 6 months ago humans were forbidden, now they are everywhere." It was true. Once the quarantine was lifted, humans had spread throughout council space with remarkable speed. But they did not come as conquerors or colonizers. They came as traders, teachers, artists, and friends. Human entertainment had become wildly popular. Stories of impossible survival against terrible odds resonated with species who had never imagined such persistence. Human music filled the air in countless worlds. Human food became a cultural phenomenon. "It is more than just trade," said thoughtfully. "Humans bring something we did not know we were missing." "What is that?" "Hope," she replied simply. "Council species have always been practical. We calculate risks. We avoid danger. We play it safe." She gestured toward the docking bay, where a group of young aliens were laughing with human exchange students. "Humans teach us that sometimes the impossible is just something nobody has tried yet." The embassy doors opened, and Commander entered. He had become a celebrity across council space, though he seemed uncomfortable with the attention. He now served as co-commander of the Joint Defense Initiative, a combined human-council military force. "Captain said, 'We have a situation. I need you in the command center.'" They hurried through the embassy corridors. The command center was filled with screens showing data from across the galaxy, was already there, working alongside council military officers. The transformation in the formerly distrustful human was remarkable. He had become one of the most respected tactical instructors in the Joint Defense Initiative. "What is happening?" asked. Appeared on one of the screens. She was aboard a deep space monitoring station, her cybernetic eye glowing brighter than usual. "Captain, my sensors have detected quantum echoes from beyond the galaxy. They match patterns we have been tracking for years." "Explain it in terms I can understand," requested. "The swarm was not the main threat," said bluntly. "It was a scouting force. Something much larger is coming." The room went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. If the swarm was just a scout, what was the main invasion force like? "How long do we have?" asked. "Best estimate, 2 years, maybe 3. "Not enough time," a council general muttered. "We barely survived the swarm. How can we face something worse?" "Together," said firmly. "Humans and aliens working as one, that is our only chance." A priority message arrived from Elder, requesting an emergency meeting. Within the hour, representatives from 50 species gathered in the embassy's main hall. The atmosphere was tense. Everyone had heard the news. Looked around the room, his ancient eyes taking in the mix of humans and aliens working side by side. 6 months ago, we were divided. We lived in fear of each other. Now we face a threat that could destroy us all. He paused. Administrator has requested permission to address this council. I have granted it. A hologram appeared, showing standing in what looked like a massive military command center. Behind him, could see hundreds of humans and aliens working at stations, coordinating something enormous. Members of the Galactic Council began. I must tell you something that humans have kept secret for 3 centuries. We knew this day would come. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the hall. Earth's position on the galactic rim made us the natural first line of defense against extragalactic threats, continued. Our unusual evolution, our adaptive abilities, our entire culture of survival and resistance developed because we were always going to be guardians. We have been preparing for this moment since we first reached the stars. He gestured behind him. For 300 years, while you believed we were isolated and primitive, we were building, we were training, we were waiting. We hoped we would never need to become what we were made to be. But hope is not a strategy. The hologram shifted, showing massive shipyards hidden in deep space. Gasped. There were thousands of ships, larger than anything he had ever seen. Weapon platforms that could turn stars into weapons. Defense networks that spanned entire solar systems. This is just one sector, said. We have 7 more like it. When the invasion comes, humans will stand on the front lines. But we cannot win alone. We need you, all of you. Why did you hide this from us? Someone demanded. Because you were not ready, replied honestly. You needed to learn to trust us first, to see us as partners, not threats. Now you know the truth. Humans are not conquerors. We are guardians, and it is time for all of us to stand guard together. The meeting continued for hours. Plans were made. Resources were allocated. Species that had never worked together before found common ground. And at the center of it all were humans, coordinating, teaching, inspiring. Found himself working alongside, organizing the integration of Council military forces with human defensive networks. It was complicated work, requiring patience and understanding from all sides. Do you think we can win? He asked her during a brief break. I think we have to, replied. But winning is not just about surviving. It is about what kind of galaxy we build together afterward. Weeks passed. The embassy became the heart of the joint defensive effort. More aliens moved into human space to train with their new tactics. More humans spread throughout Council territory to share their knowledge. Watched as his own crew, the aliens who had first crossed into human space with him, became ambassadors themselves. They traveled to distant worlds, telling their story, showing others that cooperation was possible. One evening, stood on the observation deck again. His cargo ship was docking, bringing supplies from the outer colonies. The old merchant had become a crucial part of the supply network, his knowledge of unusual space routes proving invaluable. Captain's voice called out as he exited his ship. His grandson, a young boy of about 7, was with him. It is good to see you, said warmly. Over the months they had become friends. I wanted Minu to see the embassy, explained, ruffling the boy's hair. He needs to understand what we are building here. The boy looked up with curious eyes. Are you really an alien? He asked innocently. I suppose I am, said with a smile, and you are an alien to me. But we are friends, right? Yes, we are friends. Then we are not really aliens, the boy concluded. We are just different kinds of friends. Laughed. Out of the mouths of children comes wisdom. My grandson understands something it took us 300 years to learn. A priority alert interrupted them. His face appeared on emergency screens throughout the station. Attention all personnel, she announced. We have detected a massive quantum signature at the galaxy's edge. The invasion force has arrived. All defensive units move to battle stations. The peaceful moment shattered. Everyone rushed to their posts, hurried to the command center, where was already coordinating the response. Status demanded. The enemy fleet is enormous, a tactical officer reported. Preliminary scans show over 50,000 vessels. They are heading toward the core worlds. Then we stop them, said calmly. All forces implement defensive plan Omega. Human fleets move to forward positions. Council fleets take secondary formation. This is not a battle. This is a war, and we will fight it together. Across the galaxy, thousands of ships began to move. Human vessels with their quantum drives, Council ships with their heavy armor, new hybrid designs that combine the strengths of both technologies. They gathered at predetermined points, forming a defensive network unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Found himself aboard a command ship, coordinating communications between 70 different species. It should have been chaos. Instead, it was harmony. Months of training and integration had paid off. As the enemy fleet approached, sent a message to every ship in the defensive network. Today we stand together, not as humans or aliens, not as separate species or divided civilizations, but as one people defending our home. His voice was strong, confident. Some of you were afraid of humans once. You thought we were dangerous, unpredictable, uncontrollable. You were right. We are all of those things, but today you will see why that makes us strong. The message ended. The enemy fleet entered weapons range. All ships commanded, engage. The battle began. It was not like the fight against the swarm. This was larger, more desperate, more crucial. But the combined fleet fought with coordination that should have been impossible between species who barely knew each other months ago. Watched humans and aliens sacrifice themselves to protect each other. He saw ships from dozens of worlds working together with perfect precision. He saw the impossible become possible because everyone refused to give up. Hours passed, the battle raged on, and slowly, impossibly, they began to win. Not because they were stronger, not because they had better weapons, but because they fought as one, united by a simple truth that humans had known all along. Together, anything is possible. As the enemy fleet finally retreated, looked around the command center. Humans and aliens embraced each other, celebrating survival. Tears of relief flowed from eyes of every shape and color. Words echoed in his mind. We are just different kinds of friends. That was the answer. That was what humans had been trying to teach the Council for 300 years. Difference was not dangerous. Fear of difference was dangerous. But acceptance, understanding, and cooperation could overcome any threat. The galaxy would never be the same, and for the first time in his life, believed that was a good thing.